everyone, I'm Catherine with Free Tours by Foot, and today I'm going to talk to you about taking the Roosevelt Island Tramway. So this aerial tramway connects Midtown Manhattan on the east side with Roosevelt Island, which is a narrow island right in the East River, and it's been doing that since the 1970s. So even though this is mostly meant as a commuter option for the more than 11,000 people that live on Roosevelt Island and need to get into Manhattan to go to work, it's become increasingly used by tourists as a sightseeing option, much like the Staten Island Ferry. So on this video, we will cover how to get to the tramway, how much it costs, how ticketing works, what to expect while you're actually on the tram, and then what to do if you decide to stay on Roosevelt Island for a little bit and sightsee, as well as some things right in the area of where the tram will leave you off when you get back to Manhattan.
At the end of this overview, you can experience both the ride from Manhattan to Roosevelt Island, as well as the return trip. So be sure to stick around for this virtual experience.
I guess a good place to start is, where is the Roosevelt Island Tram? To access it on the Manhattan side, it's at 60th Street and 2nd Avenue. So if you're trying to take a subway there from other parts of Manhattan, the closest subway option is going to be the 456 or the NRW, both of which will stop at 59th Street and Lexington. So then you'll just have a couple of avenues to walk over from there. You can also access it via bus. You can use the M57 Crosstown bus, as well as the M15 bus, which will run up 1st Avenue. Lots of different options for how to get there. It's also pretty walkable from a lot of parts of Midtown Manhattan. So for the ticketing, you're in luck if you have already been using the New York City subway on your trip, because this uses the exact same ticketing system. This is a part of the MTA system. You use the exact same Metro card that you use for the New York City subway and for the buses. It costs the same amount, and all of the same rules as far as fares for children, for seniors, etc. Those all apply here on the Roosevelt Island Tram. So you swipe your Metro card. If you don't have a Metro card, they do have an MTA vending machine to get one right there at the Roosevelt Island Tram. The only thing they don't have is a MTA booth that will actually have a ticketing agent there. You'll have to do it through the vending machine. But no problem if you don't already have a Metro card. You can do that when you get there. So these trams run not 24 hours a day like the subway, but they run pretty long hours. Most days of the week they'll run until 2 o'clock in the morning, but on Fridays and Saturdays they run until 3:30 in the morning. So you're pretty well covered on options. So as far as how often they run, it does vary depending on the day of the week. It depends on the time of day, but in general, you can expect a tram to be leaving every 7 to 15 minutes, so pretty consistently. When you are boarding the tram, the doors will open, you load on. These cars actually hold up to 110 people, though it is very, very unlikely that you will be on the tram with that many people unless you are right in the middle of rush hour. So as far as where to be on the tram, it kind of depends on what you want to see. And because you'll inevitably have to ride it to Roosevelt Island and back, I actually recommend doing two different things. Going to Roosevelt Island, I like to sit right in the front, in the window facing right along the cables. I think it's an interesting view heading into Roosevelt Island and kind of along the tops of the 59th Street Bridge. On the way back, you're going to want to stay near the doors of the tram on the left side. And the reason I say that is you'll be able to look out of those windows and get an absolutely beautiful view into Midtown Manhattan and down the East River a little ways, and it's really, really spectacular. So that way you'll get a little bit different view both coming and going on the Roosevelt Island Tram. So the other thing to know is actually much like the Staten Island Ferry as well, you can't just sit on the tram and wait for it to turn around and go back to Manhattan. You have to get off on the other side, and when you buy your ticket, it is a one-way ride. So to get back on the tram to go back to Manhattan, you will have to pay again. So it's 2 rides on the Metro card if you're doing a pay-per-ride card. And even though you can certainly do that and just turn around and go back to Manhattan, I recommend that you don't, because Roosevelt Island really has a lot to offer as far as sightseeing, and you really should stay and check some of it out. I'll run through a few of the things that you can see on Roosevelt Island in a minute, but just a quick thing about how to get around when you get here. Roosevelt Island's actually very, very walkable. It's only 2 miles long, or about 3.2 kilometers long, so you can certainly walk the entire thing pretty easily. But if you are not up for that much walking, Roosevelt Island actually has some bus options as well. One of the city buses on the Queens line through the MTA actually does run on Roosevelt Island, but I recommend using what most people use, which is the red Roosevelt Island shuttle bus. This is a free bus, runs all over Roosevelt Island. They run very, very regularly. There's lots of stops, and a lot of them are right by a lot of the high points and the things that you would want to see. So feel free to take advantage of this shuttle bus option if you don't want to do a lot of walking. Another recommendation I have is to get off the tram and walk north up Roosevelt Island and see some of the sights on foot and walk along the water. And then you can take the bus back down to the tram, and you'll cut out some of the walking that way. As far as some of the sights that you can see on Roosevelt Island, they actually have some beautiful park spaces and some lovely walking paths along the water where you can get some great views of Midtown Manhattan and of the East River. If you go further up, you can check out the Blackwell House, which is the 6th oldest house in New York City. You can check out the Octagon, which was the site of a former mental institution here in New York City. That's actually where in the 1880s, Nellie Bly faked insanity and went undercover as a journalist in order to expose the conditions and the treatment of the mentally ill here in New York City. It changed treatment for mental institutions, and it also changed journalism. And it's a fantastic site. All the way at the north end of the island is Blackwell's Lighthouse, which is a little bit of a trek up there, but certainly worth seeing. If you go south from the tram, there is Four Freedoms Park, which is really beautiful, as well as Cornell Tech, a part of Cornell University's New York City campus, and a really great view of the United Nations compound from Roosevelt Island. So a lot that you can see here. I would say give yourself about 3 hours if you're planning on exploring Roosevelt Island. And then when you're done, you can take the tram back. So factoring in, of course, your 3 hours for Roosevelt Island, if you're sitting here wondering what are the good times to take the tram, like I said, it runs pretty regularly and it runs for most of the day. The only times I would avoid are rush hour times. So those couple hours right before work and then a couple hours after work. And the reason is there are over 11,000 people that live on Roosevelt Island and take this as commuters. It just tends to be a little more crowded. The best time of day to take the Roosevelt Island tram is at sunset. So if you can time it out to where you take the tram over, spend a few hours exploring over here, and then take it back at sunset, you will be in for an absolute treat. It is really a beautiful, beautiful view. So when you get back across to Manhattan, just a couple things that are right there in the area in case you want to explore a little bit more. You are pretty close at that point to the southeast corner of Central Park, so good access to Central Park. You are close to the United Nations if that's something you wanted to go and see, maybe check out taking a tour. You're also close to Museum Mile, the stretch of museums on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. So there's really quite a bit to do right where you're going to leave off there at 60th Street and 2nd Avenue. We hope you will consider taking the Roosevelt Island tram. If you need any more details about what you can see on Roosevelt Island or how taking this works, Free Tours by Foot actually has a blog post. We have a self-guided tour of Roosevelt Island that is certainly worth using when you're over here. So check those out. And like I said, this runs off of the MTA ticketing and Metro, and if that is still something that is confusing to you, make sure you check out our blog posts and our informational videos on how to buy a Metro card, how to choose a Metro card, and you will be all set for your trip on the Roosevelt Island Tramway. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on your trip to New York.
cheese. They say hello. Say cheese. Look at the camera. Good job, Simo. Ari, turn around. Take a picture of me and Ari together.
You're voting for the whole bus. Do something good.
Hi, Ari. Right. Something at another 550 is the transfer. The next time, so I'll open the door for you, and I'll let you guys in. The emergency door. All right, you gotta leave it on, okay? You gotta try. Alright, turn around. Here. Alright. Smile. Hi, look at the camera. Don't bite on it. Let's see your face. Alright, look at the camera. Look. Smile. I want you to smile. He can't be. He's too young.